Hey everybody, Joe Borey from Syncoplay Retro Gaming, and today I want to share some memories of my first 3 Nintendo games. Like most kids who got their NES during the launch window, my first game was Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt Combination Pack. Now, I don't need to tell you guys what a big deal this game was for the games industry. This game changed everything. Before this, Donkey Kong and Pitfall was what we considered a good platformer, with their predefined jumps and their single-screen levels. And then we get to Super Mario Bros. With huge scrolling worlds, tons of things to do, interesting physics on the player, and a jump mechanic that is so nuanced that you always have exact control of what you want to do. Super Mario Bros. Was incredible. But I remember as a kid, I get this game and I'm immediately sucked in. I'm so engrossed in this. I believe it was my dad who had told me, I can't get a new game until I've completed Super Mario Bros. Now, that's a daunting task for a 5-year-old kid, but I'm up for the challenge. And I'm playing it, and I'm playing it, and I remember the night that I reached World 4-4. It's the castle that repeats unless you take the correct path. You have to take the top path, bottom path, middle path, and if you don't, then the castle just keeps repeating over and over. So I get in there and I start running through it. I don't understand this idea of a repeating level. This is brand new to me. And so I run through this place and it seems to never end, and I run out of time and I die. So I think maybe I just need to be faster. So I run it even faster and I run out of time and I die. And by this point, it's like 5 minutes a run. I'm starting to get frustrated. But I keep going and I keep trying to complete this. And every time I die until I run out of lives and it's game over. And I am absolutely devastated. I remember as a kid going to bed that night crying because I knew that level was going to stop me from ever getting a new game. Now, of course, that's not true, but man, as a kid, 4-4 destroyed me. Now, I can run this game pretty much without dying in about 40 minutes, and it's still an incredible experience to this day. But under the idea that I would not be able to get a second game until I completed Super Mario Bros. Luckily, they did not hold to that. Because one day in the shop that my mom worked at, it was like one of those liquidation shops, and they got 2 new games in stock. They got Super Pitfall and Gauntlet. And these became my next 2 video games. Now, I know now why these games were in the liquidation shop. Gauntlet, the original Tengen version, was part of the lawsuit that Atari had just lost against Nintendo for creating unlicensed cartridges. And Super Pitfall was... But I didn't know that back then. Back then, I had 2 brand new games that I could play on my NES. So, I really got into Super Pitfall. Now that may surprise anybody who didn't grow up with this game, because this is one of those games that people tend to target as worst games of all time, worst games on the NES. It's not that bad, guys. What it is a buggy mess. But as a kid, I figured out my ways around the bugs. I actually used the bugs like they were secrets, and I was exploring and figuring out things that I wasn't supposed to do, but maybe I am supposed to do this. I would figure out ways that would allow me to use the collision issues to walk through walls and find corrupted parts of memory that I would then explore as if it was a secret level. And this stuff made this game so much fun for me. Super Pitfall is an early Metroidvania, and for that, it's really cool. just too bad that they kind of ham-fisted it together and it's kind of a broken mess. But just because it was one of the first 3 Nintendo games I ever owned, Super Pitfall really holds a special place in my heart. I am not the only one. There was somebody who created a Super Pitfall Anniversary Edition ROM hack that fixes most of the bugs in the game, redesigned some of the worst parts of the level, updated all the graphics and the music, and actually turned it into a pretty solid NES Metroidvania. I would argue that it might be the ROM hack improved version might be one of the 5 best Metroidvanias on the NES. So if you've played Super Pitfall and been super disappointed by what you tried, try the Super Pitfall Anniversary Edition ROM hack. It might change your mind. It might open up your eyes to what Super Pitfall could have been if Micronix hadn't developed it. Last game I brought up here was Gauntlet. And Gauntlet was awesome. That's all I have to say about Gauntlet, is that this game was my childhood for a very long time. And particularly the NES version, because there was something NES did different than the arcades. In the arcade version of Gauntlet, yeah, it was 4 players, but every time you would start the game, you would start at a random level. What it actually was the arcade machine was constantly cycling levels, and you would start where the last player left off. But, alas, it felt random. But the arcade game had 100 levels, but you always played a different set of those levels. Well, the NES version had 100 levels, but they were structured into a world interconnected with 5 different distinct areas, each with their own tricks and traps. It had secret levels that you had to find a special exit in order to get into the secret level, to find passwords that you would then use in order to actually fight the final boss. It was, for better or worse, Gauntlet the RPG. And that one change made Gauntlet feel so much more rich and so much more alive than the arcade counterpart. And because of that, even though it was only 2 players, played the heck out of this. Often with my sister as our player 2, we would see just how far we could get. Well, there is one thing about Gauntlet that, let's just say, is not so great. Starting at level 79, which is 20 levels before the end of the game, it stops giving you passwords, which means the final 5th of the game, the hardest part of the game, has to be completed on a single life. Because of Gauntlet's mechanics, the way that they're set up, your health is constantly ticking down, which makes it a speed run, a damage run, and luck-based, because there are 2 points in which you have a chance of getting healed, or a chance of not getting healed because of the way the treasure runes work. And if you don't get healed, you might as well restart back at level 79 and make the run again. Because of that, as a kid, I never made it to the end. I made it close. I probably made it to level 85, 88, but I never made it to the end. Now, as an adult, 2 years ago, I decided I'm finally going to complete Gauntlet. That was a seriously daunting task. I get to the level 79 password section pretty quickly, and I was really careful remembering all the things I learned when I was a kid to get all the passwords, to get all the power-ups, everything that I needed so that my password was maxed out at level 79. Then I started running, and over and over and over again, inching my way closer and closer and closer to the final boss. And it took 3 days of focused playing. Probably, I would guess I spent 6 hours or more running level 79 to level 100 before perfecting it enough that I could get past that final boss. It is I consider one of the greatest gaming accomplishments of my life to finally make it past that boss. And then you can die after the boss. So I started again, ran it again, beat the boss, got out without dying, and finally saw the end of Gauntlet. One of the first 3 games that I ever owned, I was finally able to complete. If you can only play one Gauntlet, this is the one to play. Yeah, it doesn't have 4-player. 4-player is pretty cool, but the level designs, the structure of this game, just the speed of the combat and all of it just feels so good in this original NES version. But then again, I might be a little bit biased. So that was the first 3 Nintendo games I ever owned. Super Mario Bros., Super Pitfall, and Gauntlet. And they all hold a very special place in my heart. After that, I got a few more games. And you know, I love 8-bit games in general, but I always like to go back to these 3 and just play again and remember how much fun they were. So, if you like videos like this, absolutely, I recommend you hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell next to it. If you have any ideas for future videos that you'd like to see from me, leave them down in the comments. If you have any memories of any of these games, Mario, Super Pitfall, Gauntlet, or of your own first 3 Nintendo games, please share your stories down there in the comments. I'd love to see what you have to say. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.